Welcome to the Gaggle, where we talk politics in Arizona and beyond. This week, Democratic enthusiasm, myth or fact, we'll find out. And the courts take the unusual step of restoring parental rights despite the Department of Child Safety's recommendations. But we start with a special guest. Eliza Collins is here from Capitol Hill. She's our Washington Bureau reporter and is taking a break from a cable news hit probably to slum with us on the Gaggle. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm warming up in Arizona.
That's right.
It's like 30 degrees in D.C. right now.
So it's been quite a 4 or 5 months for Arizona's delegation on Capitol Hill. First, Senator McCain reveals a life-threatening diagnosis, and his future is a little uncertain. Jeff Flake says he's not going to run for re-election. So what is the mood in the delegation?
Well, it's definitely made kind of an awkward sense because Flake is not running, and he said he's not running because he feels that there is no place for him in the Republican Party. So with that message, he's basically saying whoever wants to step in feels that there is a place for them, and that's a pro-Trump, just a different place than what Flake said. He was pro-immigration, free market, so he's basically saying if you don't feel you're those things, maybe you can fit in. And so it's awkward. It's an awkward place to be in if you want to run. And that's sort of where we're watching Congresswoman McSally seems like she's going to run. She's telling her colleagues, who also someone like Congressman Franks briefly floated stepping into that seat. So they're all sort of just trying to figure out their place in when they have for sure one open seat in the Senate and potentially down the road another one, at least at the end of McCain's term. He's not going to be running again.
Is there a lot of sort of behind-the-scenes chatter about who's maneuvering for Flake's seat or things like that, or elbowing others out of the way or encouraging others to run? Is there much of that?
I think they're in an interesting place because Kelly Ward has already staked out. She announced she was running right away here. And so it's sort of assumed that she's got the Trump base. Steve Bannon came out and endorsed her. So the more establishment Republicans are looking for someone that is not Kelly Ward. When Jeff Flake announced he wasn't going to run, the NRSC, which is sort of the campaign arm connected to the Senate, came out and had a statement. I don't remember exactly what it said, but basically it said, good thing we can now put someone that'll beat Kelly Ward. So they're doing behind the scenes, trying to find someone that they believe can. The Arizona delegation is interesting because it has someone like Congressman Biggs, who's very, very conservative. Congressman Franks is also conservative. Gosar. Congresswoman McSally has sort of been more moderate, but we're seeing her shift a little bit, as I'm sure you guys have talked about many times. And so there's definitely conversations, but it seems at this point she has told most of her colleagues she's at least interested in the seat, and they seem to be stepping back.
Well, moving across the aisle, Ron, you were looking at some data, and it seemed to indicate maybe Democrats aren't as enthused as they say they are after Trump.
Yeah, well, if enthusiasm is measured in voter registration, it's not showing up so far. What we see is statewide Republicans continue to outnumber Democrats in terms of new registrations. And it's most notable, especially when you look at by congressional district, that Congressional District 2, that would be the most competitive seat in this state this cycle, the seat currently held by Martha McSally, whether she runs for the Senate or not, that should be a pretty hot seat. It's an open seat or a tough fight for Republicans, and Democrats have lost registrants there, and they are going backward in that seat in particular, and it's sort of playing out statewide that Democrats continue to be outnumbered by Republicans, and it's just something to watch. It doesn't mean that they're going to lose elections, but it does mean that they have to raise turnout if they're going to be able to win some of these tight races.
What do they say about that? I'm sure they're not saying, yeah, we're not enthused.
Yeah, I think that they're still a little guarded. There's some sentiment that this is a cyclical thing. It's still early in the election cycle, so after the presidential cycle, you don't have the turnout in the off year in terms of registration, but it's the sort of thing that it's the case for everybody, that there's always some reason that you can point to, well, it's not where we'd like it to be right now, and we'll get there. But for Democrats, as a party that really struggles in Arizona in a lot of races, you need to get points on the board while you can.
So, Mary Jo, you covered what's sort of an unusual decision that came out of court regarding Department of Child Safety. What happened?
The Court of Appeals took a case that was brought by a mom. She had lost her parental rights to her 2 kids, according to a juvenile court decision. She contested that, and the appeals court went through a really extensive review of the record, and they said, you know, this was just wrong. You know, they dropped the ball. They didn't present all the evidence that was there. They presented partial evidence that basically cast the mother in a bad light. Mom didn't testify, which sort of, in her defense, which sort of complicated things. And it's very, and they said, so we're reversing this. We're going to send it back to juvie court, and we'll see what the court does with that mom and her 2 kids. Now, because of child privacy laws, I can't tell you, like, where have the kids been? Where are they now? Did they get adopted? You know, how old are they? It's impossible to know these kind of things unless somebody wants to incur the wrath of the court. But thanks to the Court of Appeals, we at least have a peek into a case that appears to have been botched.
Are there any bigger lessons that can be taken from that case, do you think?
Well, you know, do your homework. I mean, the judge,
Mom.
yeah, Judge Swan, who wrote the opinion, said, look, the record shows that the caseworker never visited the mom, didn't go to check out her home to see if it was safe. I mean, he or she didn't do the basics of the job. Now, why is that? It'd be interesting to know, maybe because they're slammed, but that's no excuse. I mean, especially when this woman lost the rights to her kids. I don't know how, you know, at least a couple of months ago.
Well, this is an awkward transition, but we'll be all with family and friends Thursday, hopefully, having Thanksgiving dinner. What's your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Cranberries, but not so much the Susan Stamberg cranberry relish that she touts every year on National Public
Like that big
Radio.
jelly thing that
It's got horseradish in it and
okay.
onions, and I've made it, and you know, it's interesting.
Nice. Ron?
Give me the turkey and mashed potatoes and throw on the gravy. Let's have it.
Eliza?
I mashed potatoes.
Well, I think I'll hang out for the pumpkin pie myself. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week.